What's up guys, it's Lord Both here with another video, and it looks like we're getting another Star Wars trilogy. If you want to believe the list of Lucasfilm projects that are being put out, which are always hit and miss, because if there's one thing Kathleen Kennedy loves to do, it's to say that they're making some films and then have no intention of actually making them. Does anybody believe that fading star Taika Waititi is actually getting a Star Wars film still? Does anybody believe that Rian Johnson is still getting his Star Wars movie? With that said, it seems that a new Star Wars trilogy is being announced, and it seems like it's going to be a continuation of the Skywalker series. And yes, it seems like REY is going to be the lead of these films, or play a pivotal role in these films. This comes to us from Deadline. Star Wars trilogy deal. Lucasfilm taps Simon Kinberg to write and produce. Lucasfilm has closed a deal with Simon Kinberg to develop a trilogy of Star Wars films. Kinberg will write the trio and produce them with Lucasfilm chief Kathleen Kennedy. And yes, again, this report says that it does look like this is going to be episodes 10, 11, and 12 of the Skywalker Saga. Some are reporting, though, that this will actually begin a new saga, probably because making REY a Skywalker, right, was not very popular at the end of the last movie. Some are saying that instead this will begin a new saga and sit alongside prelocating Star Wars projects with James Mangold. That's the Birth of the Force movie, right? Or the Birth of the Jedi Order. The Charmin I Like to Make Men Feel Uncomfortable Obeyed Shinoy film, which I wouldn't be surprised if she directs the first film in this series, if it is the REY Skywalker part of the Skywalker Saga, right? The Taika Waititi and Donald Glover films. Yeah, I don't think those are happening. As usual, Lucasfilm and Disney are not commenting. Yeah, well, Lucasfilm and Disney never comment on Lucasfilm's predicted films to come out, mostly because they're getting canceled. Now, as far as the writer and producer Kinberg goes, Kinberg previously worked with Lucasfilm in co-creating with Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck the Emmy-nominated animated series Star Wars Rebels that ran for 4 seasons from 2014 to 2018. He also was a consultant on Star Wars The Force Awakens, and he also was a consultant on Star Wars Rogue One. So there it makes a little bit more sense now. Kinberg is probably being tapped because he was a consultant on the 2 Star Wars Disney films that made the most money and probably are the most popular with fans and critics of the series. So yeah, he was hired as a consultant on those films, and he knows Kathleen Kennedy, which is going to make him the perfect stupid advisor for Kathleen Kennedy, and basically a yes man to all her terrible ideas. He has also been heavily involved in other franchises as writer and or producer. Yes, he was involved in the X-Men and Logan films. He was an executive producer to Deadpool and Wolverine, and he produced the Ridley Scott directed The Martian, which I thought was a fantastic film. And he scripted such films as Mr. and Mrs. Smith and co-wrote the film that launched the Sherlock Holmes franchise with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law. Also a good movie, I think. Though wildly different from other adaptations of Sherlock Holmes, and far more action-packed, shall we say. However, it's not all been good though. And he was hired not just as a producer, which a lot of those credits were, but also a writer. And to be quite honest, he hasn't written a hit since 2014. And some of the things he did write, they were not good. He was a writer on that god-awful Fantastic Four film that almost killed Miles Teller's career. He had to be pulled out from the depths of career hell by Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick to save it. He was a writer on the mid-to-terrible X-Men Apocalypse. Here's the most damning thing. He was writer, producer, and director for X-Men Dark Phoenix. Arguably the worst X-Men film ever produced, maybe besides X-Men 3. And that whole film was his baby. He had complete control of it. He was writer on something called The 355, which I don't know what the hell that is. And he was writer on The Killer's Game, which I never saw. I think, if I remember that film correctly, it was okay from what I heard. The point is here, he hasn't written a hit in a decade, which makes it more obvious why Kathleen Kennedy wanted him for the project. He's a washed up writer with no more talent left that was, as you can see here, consultant on 2 of the biggest financial success projects for Disney Star Wars. And he worked with Dave Filoni on Star Wars Rebels, where he probably was, again, a stupidvisor. So yeah, it makes sense that he was pegged for this role to do whatever Kathleen Kennedy wants to make these projects come alive. Now, my gut feeling is that this is going to be a continuation of the Star Wars saga. Rey is going to be either the first or second lead in the film. As we heard reports, she's now transitioning into this Obi-Wan-like figure, which I don't know what that means. Is she going to mess up her Padawan so bad that they go out and bang a New Republic senator, knock them up, and then become a Sith? Is that what that means? But even if it wasn't about Rey or the Skywalker Saga or anything like that, it just wouldn't be a success anyway. Because nothing that Lucasfilm produces right now is going to be a success. Listen, I'm a sports guy, and there's some sports teams that just at the top, no matter what you do, unless you change that person at the top, they're just going to keep staying the way they are. Unless Jerry Jones sells the Cowboys are going to stay mediocre to bad every single year. Unless the family that owns Manchester United decides to sell the team to somebody else, they too in soccer are going to stay mediocre to bad every single year, despite the fact that they are storied franchises and the sport is more popular when they are good. Just like movies and pop culture is better when Star Wars is good. But that's never going to happen with Kathleen Kennedy at the top. And until she retires, walks away, whatever, Star Wars is not getting good again. And by the time that happens, we'll see if it has any shred of credibility, any shred of love left to even mount a comeback. But those are just my thoughts on all this. If you have your own thoughts, go ahead and leave them in the comments. If you like this video, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, I appreciate you watching all of it. We'll talk to you again later.